So we will start with a grounding meditation. Any comfortable position here to get started. Taking any movements to help your body to settle in. Maybe even taking a few deep breaths. And part of grounding is, really literally feeling the body making contact with the ground. So just feel that. And another part of grounding is bringing us into the present moment. And that is where our breath is. So maybe feel the body breathing or listen to your breath or any other anchor you'd like to use here. That is right here, right now, sounds, breath, feeling the hands and what they're touching. And as you settle in, coming into a more embodied presence, the awareness in the body, you find areas of tension or tightness that with your awareness pointing at those places, you can find a little more space, add some ease, soften. So our effort is in our awareness, in our attention. We are generating it from within. And it's really helpful to have a balance of effort and ease. So our effort is going towards our attention, our awareness, our focus, and we can have more ease in the physical body. Arriving again and again back into this space, arriving in the body. Bring your attention to your feet and what your feet are touching. Bring your attention to your hands and any sensations that you notice in your hands. Take a big, deep breath and feel that breath and just let it out really slowly. Starting to make our way out of a meditative state, opening your eyes when you're ready, and fully coming back into the space. Okay, so today we are talking about compassion for others and self-compassion. So we're going to be heavy on the self-compassion. We'll go into compassion of others a little bit here at the start. We will do 2 guided meditations. So I'll talk a little bit about compassion for others. We'll do a short practice with that. And then I'll come back and talk some on self-compassion, and then we'll do a longer self-compassion practice. And then we'll share it up with opportunities for sharing and questions throughout. Okay, great. All right. So, Compassion is a natural response that arises when we witness suffering. So, until I started studying this subject matter, I didn't understand that there was a difference between compassion and empathy, and what the difference was between compassion and empathy. So, compassion literally means to suffer together. It's noticing and being sensitive to sensing what another is feeling and caring that they're suffering. And that kind of goes along with empathy, right? Empathy, we tend to kind of sense that someone is suffering and struggling. The difference is compassion is there's an action. So there's two steps in cultivating compassion. The first is that we're willing to turn towards the suffering. So we notice that there's suffering, we get touched by the suffering, and we turn towards it. And that is actually deconditioning, because we are actually wired to move away from unpleasant things, right? We're wired to reject things that aren't pleasant. So there is an intentionality around compassion where we notice that there's suffering and we choose to stay in it. And so we're retraining the brain. And when we do that, it actually gives us something when we do that, right? It lights up our the rest and digest, the comforting, the soothing elements that we have. And then, so that's the first step, is notice their suffering, turn towards it, lean in it, and be willing to be touched by it. And then the second step is to respond with care. And that really varies. So that could be just, so that response doesn't have to be an outward response for it to be compassion. So it can be a prayer that you say to yourself. Or it could be a very small outward act, like a smile. It could be a hug, or it could, get to the end of that spectrum where it's an act of service. So that step of action is what takes it from empathy to compassion. So, and this is why empathy is draining and compassion is supportive. Compassion feels good, and if we only sit back with empathy, and to me that's like, it feels more like I'm just taking it on, like I'm getting other people's energy, and it's like holding on to that. Whereas compassion, I'm doing something about it. And maybe it's just a silent prayer and nobody else knows that I did anything about it, right? But we are being compassionate even when we do that, and that is really helpful to our well-being. um, there are when I send out the recap email tomorrow, I'm going to include Kristen Neff's self-compassion book as a resource for you to go back and go through, because there's so many studies about how compassionate people that are compassionate and that practice self-compassion, how much more balanced they are in their well-being. And that can look like increased happiness and joy. It can look like improved self-esteem. It also promotes emotional resilience. So, any comfortable position will do for this first practice. And to me, okay, so here we just start to settle in taking any adjustments you need to be comfortable, closing down your eyes if that's comfortable. Maybe taking a few deep breaths just as a down-regulating practice, inhaling deeply through the nose and maybe exhaling slowly out the mouth. And then letting the breath settle into your natural rhythm, just letting the breath breathe itself. And bringing your attention to your heart center, maybe imagining that you're breathing in and out of your heart center. Maybe you can feel some warmth, some tingling as we start to open up this area. Noticing the sensations around your heart, warmth, openness, tenderness. And picture someone who is close to you, someone that you have, that you love a lot. And just notice how this feels around your heart center. Someone that's easy to love. Maybe imagining that you're extending out a golden light that holds your warm feelings, sending it out to your loved one. And this golden light is bringing them peace and happiness. And we can silently recite some phrases, sending out to them. May you have happiness. May you be free from suffering. May you experience joy and ease. May you have happiness. Sending this out to your loved one through that golden light from your heart. May you be free from suffering. May you experience joy and ease. Now think of a time when this person was suffering. Maybe they experienced an illness or an injury or a difficult time at work or in a relationship. Notice how you feel when you think of their suffering. Noticing how your heart feels. Noticing if the sensations around your heart change. Do you still feel warmth and openness and tenderness? Or maybe there are some other sensations like aching or wanting. Noticing what is there. So here we are practicing compassion without trying to change anything or make anything better. We're just feeling. We understand that they're suffering. Sending them love and support, warmth. Coming back to your body on the floor, back to your body breathing. Maybe take in a big deep breath and exhale it out slowly. Noticing how you feel here. Coming back into this space and opening your eyes when you're ready. We work with this subject. I think there's some important things to remember. Like, one thing that I think that's helpful when we're in a difficult situation is to remember that this too shall pass, right? It's not going to stay very long. But when you're with another that's suffering, that's not always like the thing that we want to say, right? We want to more hold space, right? And just, right? Um, that doesn't always feel supportive, at least in my opinion. And we're holding space for the suffering without trying to change it and make it better. Um, and just, giving that act of compassion, whether it be a smile or a hug or some bigger act of service or a silent prayer. Sometimes that's what's needed. So, and this compassion practice, again, helps us to be more emotionally resilient, right? So that's being emotionally resilient, is being able to take on that difficult situation and to just hold space for it in a way that is supportive. So we now turn to self-compassion. Some folks might think of self-compassion as weak. Some folks might think of self-compassion as like avoiding. Um, but for many of us, we are our harshest critics, and we are the messages that are going on in our head are just really unhelpful, to our mental health. So we're so much kinder to other people, right? So other people that are going through the exact same thing that we are going through, we would react completely different. If we are not practicing self-compassion, we would react very differently to them than we would towards ourselves. So, and it doesn't need to be that way. We really, I don't like to use the word should, but it would be really great if we gave ourselves the same level of compassion as we give to, we could say our best friends, but a lot of us give more compassion to absolute strangers than we give towards ourselves, right? So that's just something to, keep in mind, when you're facing a situation, is how would my good friend talk to me, or what would they do for me, and then do that for yourself. So Kristen Neff teaches that self-compassion is not about making excuses or letting ourselves off the hook. It's about acknowledging our humanness and treating ourselves with the same kindness we would offer a friend. So everything that we are doing is part, that we are beating ourselves up for, is just because we're human, right? Or we've been conditioned, or we've been traumatized, or we've been raised a certain way. I mean, it's just, there's so many factors to that, right? And I think for a lot of us, we have this idea that we're supposed, that there's a perfectionism, that we're supposed to be this certain way and we're not supposed to be this way, and are just really hard on ourselves. So there are 3 elements of self-compassion. And again, this is from Kristen Neff. 3 elements. The first is self-kindness, meeting our own suffering with warmth and understanding rather than harsh self-criticism. Speaking to ourselves the way we might speak to a dear friend, right? I just already went through that. And then the second, bless you, the second is common humanity, remembering that suffering is part of the shared human experience and that we're not alone. So the way that that looks is when we are, let's say I lost my job and I'm being really hard on myself about losing my job. It could help me to feel better, even for, the short term, to remember that there are other people right now that are in the same situation as me. I am not alone. Other people just lost their job and they're feeling the same way I'm feeling, and I'm not alone. So a lot of times that just helps to just get us up out of that darkness. And then the third thing is mindfulness, being willing to notice and acknowledge our suffering without ignoring, exaggerating, or being swept away by it. So, self-compassion is not self-pity, self-compassion is not self-indulgence, and self-compassion is not weakness. Research shows that people who practice self-compassion are actually more resilient, more motivated, and more emotionally balanced. Self-compassion gives us the strength to see things clearly and respond wisely, not to collapse or become passive, but to meet our lives with more skill, less unnecessary suffering. And again, like we talked about with the compassion towards others, this is not about fixing anything. It's not about making it different. It's about being with what is actually going on right now with kindness. So we can have a bad situation, feel a lot of pain, and still be kind to ourselves. And there are things that we can do to help us to feel supportive. Because what I find is, so I suffered significantly with depression and anxiety. And what I found was when I would start to get depressed, um, it was just this like snowball. Then I would get more depressed, and then I would get more depressed. And it was like I just kept going down and down and down. Or anxiety, I'd feel anxious, and then I'd get anxious about feeling anxious, and then I'd be more anxious. And so I just kept I just kept going in the direction that was unbalanced. So what these self-compassion practices help us to do is just to realize when we start feeling that way, and we can like stop that train, right? I'm feeling depressed, or I'm feeling down, or I'm feeling anxious, and there are other people that are feeling this way right now, and I'm getting ready to go through some things that we can do to add some self-compassion back to ourselves, so that we can feel bad and not continue to just pile the crap, right? Because we're just piling crap on top of it, right? It's not the actual situation that's getting worse. It's just our mental crap that we're putting on top of it that just makes it heavier and heavier and heavier and feels like we can't get out of it. So if we can stop that process and not put more unnecessary stuff on it, then we can really be with what's going on, right? That is what this practice is. It's about being in the present moment, being with what is, and then just trying to stay emotionally balanced, resilient through all the things that we get to deal with being humans, right? Okay, so I love offering some physical touch practices for some self-compassion, bringing self-compassion towards you. So there's multiple ways that this can be done. Some are more overt and some are more subtle. And like I say almost every week, these are just tools. We're just putting these in our repertoire, and we can pull them out at different times when we need them. Okay, so one of them is placing both hands over your heart. And so even just a little bit of pressure in the hands can be soothing. So we can try, let's try some of these and just maybe close your eyes and just notice how it feels. And there are multiple ones for a reason, because they don't all feel supported to all of us. So just check in. How does this feel for you? Does it help you feel more safe, more cared for? And some folks like this to be a little stronger, a little heavier, so the bottom hand can be a fist with the other hand just placed on top. This is a strength with love gesture. And just notice how this feels for you. All right. I'm a big fan of shaking it out. So if you feel like you need to shake something out in between, please do. Okay. Another one is cradling your face with your hands. So we have all of these nerves in our hands and our face. So this can be calming unless it creates anxiety. So for some people, hands on their face takes them the other direction. So just notice how this feels. All right, maybe shake that out. Okay, you can give yourself a hug. So and then you can kind of add on to this. So this might be enough. You can add some rocking. Some rocking might feel soothing. You can add some rubbing. You know, I think of my grandmas. This makes me think of my grandmas, that, oh, honey, it's going to be okay. Oh, darling, and you can even messages like that. If there's a little pet name for yourself that feels right, some of them feel kind of fake, but if there's one that feels right, like you hear your grandma saying it, you could say that to yourself. It's okay, honey. It's okay, honey. I'm here. It's okay. Let's say you're in a meeting and you get triggered, and this isn't gonna land well. You could hold your hand, so in your lap. So, same kind of thing. You can give a little bit of pressure in your hand, like somebody else. You could even imagine that, maybe you have someone that's really safe. Again, maybe it's a grandparent, maybe it's your beloved, maybe it's your best friend, and you imagine that they're holding your hand and squeezing your hand and even rubbing. You can rub your hand also. So let's meditate one more time. Coming into that comfortable meditation position and closing down the eyes if you're comfortable with that. Feeling your body on the floor, feeling your feet and your hands. Bringing something to mind that's happening in your life right now that is mildly to moderately distressing. We do not want to work with anything that is anywhere close to trauma. So maybe it's something that you said that you wish you didn't say or did, or anything else that comes to mind right now that's mild to moderate, some mistake or regret. that you're feeling inadequate in some way, relationship or work. Again, not something that is overwhelmingly stressful. And just bring the situation to mind. And we're doing that just to make it as real as possible, remembering any details of what happened. Just feeling some of the discomfort of the situation in your body. And if it ever becomes overwhelming, if this practice becomes overwhelming, come back to the body on the floor and just drop the memory and come in, just like we did in our grounding practice, feeling the body, feeling the feet, feeling the hands, finding the breath or any sounds. So feeling some of the discomfort of the situation in your body and bringing some mindfulness in and turning towards that discomfort. And messaging to yourself, this is really hard. And it's really hard to be feeling this way right now. Maybe imagining that a good friend or loved one is saying this to you. This is so hard. Just acknowledging it, being with it if you can. And remembering the humanity of what we're feeling. That all humans feel like this at times. There's nothing wrong with feeling this way. There are probably millions of other people in the world right now feeling similar to this feeling. We're not comparing or downgrading our suffering. It's just remembering that we're not alone in this. And here we have the opportunity to add some soothing or supportive touch, maybe putting your hand on your heart or holding your hand, giving a gentle squeeze. Letting yourself know, I'm here for you and I care. Maybe some messaging that could be helpful. It's okay to make mistakes. I'm doing the best that I can. Or this too shall pass. It won't always be this way. Or some reassurance. I'm here for you. I love you. It's okay. Again, maybe imagining that a good friend or a loved one is sending you these messages. What words of support or encouragement might be helpful here? Just noticing how you feel. We're not trying to take the suffering away. We're meeting our suffering with care rather than fear or judgment. This is strength. showing ourselves that we can move through life with a soft yet steady heart. Bringing this meditation to a close. Maybe taking some deep breaths here. Feeling your feet and what they're touching. Feeling the energy in your hands. Opening your eyes when you're ready. Coming back into this space in your own time. Just noticing how you're feeling. One thing that I was reminded of from your share, is that we have a negativity bias. And we are really conditioned to see all of our flaws because, evolutionary, for evolutionary reasons, that was meant to be helpful, right, for us to survive and thrive. So I think that is helpful to keep in mind when we have that negative self-talk, right? And we are so hard on ourselves that can help with not furthering the self-criticism and self-judgment and like, this is, again, part of being human. This is how we're wired. We are wired with this negativity bias, and we just, it takes effort and intention and mindfulness to retrain those patterns. That's that fork in the road of reacting versus responding, right? Because if we're not responding mindfully, then most likely we're reacting not mindfully, right? I mean, you're coming to a T, you're going one way or the other, right? And that reaction might be dissociating, right? So mindfulness of the body. And I think this practice also reinforces how all of these practices are threads of this fabric. And all of these practices are just parts of that. And they all, it's not just, we can't just do one thing of them. We need all of them, and they all support each other. Real quick gratitude. What are you grateful for? And how does it feel to bring gratitude to mind? And we'll close our practice, hands at heart center, hands over your heart or any other comfortable place. May you be happy. May you be healthy. May you be safe. The light and love in me bows to the love and light in all of you. Namaste.